All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Vish here, checking in with Chief Borkowski of the Ottawa Fire Department. I've never met this man until today, so I appreciate the
Nice
help
to
with
meet
the
you.
project here.
Mhm.
We're going to go over and discuss a little bit of the 4896. They're the only department in my state that I know right now that actually runs this 4896. So tying it into my paper on the 24-hour shift, this gives us a little bit of a different look at a shift for a career full-time fire department here. So, Chief, let me just start and ask you, how long have you been chief of the department here?
I became chief of the department in January 28th of this year. I had served as deputy chief in charge of operations for about 2.5 years before that.
Okay. How long have you been with the city of Ottawa now?
I've been with the city of Ottawa just about 26 years.
26 years. So you've been a firefighter here, you've been a driver here,
Yes.
paramedic here. Okay, perfect. So tell me a little bit about the Ottawa Fire Department itself.
Okay, the Ottawa Fire Department is unique is that we're one of two full-time departments in LaSalle County. LaSalle County is, I think, the second largest county in the state of Illinois. For the most part, we're surrounded by volunteer departments. We're starting to see some more full-time EMS. Ottawa is the county seat, so we have all the county courthouses and administrative facilities for the county. We've got a nighttime population of about 18,000 in town. We're not limited by boundaries, so we are constantly annexing, constantly getting larger. So we are a growing department from that standpoint. Currently, we have 27 union members broke up into three shifts: a chief, a deputy chief, and a secretary. Last year in 2017, we did a total of 4,038 calls,
Okay.
and that's with an average. Our minimum daily staffing is 7 a day out of two stations.
Out of two stations. Okay. And then your EMS, you guys run your own ALS ambulance here?
Yes, we have four ALS ambulances. Two are dedicated to 911. One is a dedicated transfer rig that runs on the 96 hours that are off. The firefighters can come in on their off days and run transfers. And then we have one reserve that, more often than not, we're actually running that as a second transfer rig at the same time.
Okay. All right. So when did you guys change to the 4896 schedule?
I believe we changed in 2016.
Okay.
And we went from the traditional 24/48 to the 48/96.
And what kind of prompted or sparked that move to the 4896?
It was a new e-board that was looking at shaking things up a little bit. The initial thought process was if we went to the 48/96 that it potentially could cut down on some sick time and some overtime, and it's kind of been an ongoing experiment since then.
Okay. All right. So your old schedule is 24/8. So are there any other departments around here that utilize this schedule at all?
Some of the local, since most of the departments are volunteers, several of them have hired full-time for EMS, and most of those EMS systems either do the 24/48 or a few of them work a 12-hour shift.
Do 12. Okay. Let's see. Kind of covered all those here. All right. So talking about the 4896 from a line guy point of view, blue shirts out there on the rigs on the streets. What are their advantages to having this schedule over the 24?
The firefighters they really like the schedule once they get accustomed to being gone for the 48 hours. We're a smaller department, so a lot of times those firefighters were working a holdover and working 48s anyway, which when we were on the traditional 24/48 schedule, put them into 48 hours working and 24-hour off before they went back. So they do like having the 4 days off. They do enjoy that without a doubt. For us, travel time isn't as big an advantage because new hires have to have residency and live inside city limits. But I could see if you're a department with unlimited residency that it would cut your trips down in half over the course of a year going back and forth to work.
Okay. Now speaking with one of the guys out there, he had made a comment about he would like this schedule a lot better if he didn't have kids or a family. Maybe
Well,
maybe build on that a little bit.
build on that. It's even if you work the traditional 48, 24/48 schedule, it always seemed that your kids' games, the recitals, were always on your working day. I mean, everybody says, well, you're off 2 out of 3 days. Yeah, but everything happens on the day you're working. Now you're into the 48 schedule. Where it really comes in as an impact is if you have a kid who's sick at home. So
Mm,
now all of a
okay.
sudden, potentially, mom was looking at staying home with a sick kid for 2 days instead of, mom would do the one day, you'd have your 2 days off. So family time is different, especially some of them with younger families. Uh, from an outsider looking in, I actually think the the guys with the older kids have a harder time that are involved in sports and everything else, because your chances of having those 2 days in a row, missing 2 games or anything else, could be an impact. But at the same time, you've got 4 days off.
Hmm.
So the 4 days off, like I said, they really enjoy having the 4 days off in between shifts.
Any other disadvantages for them with the
Uh,
4896?
for them, I think it's just, first of all, if you're a significant other or wife, husband, you have to get accustomed to the 48 hours schedule, 24, 48 shift, originally just being on a day early on in relationships and things like that. Now you're gone for 2 days.
Hmm.
Okay. So I mean, it does take a little bit as far as relationships and everything else to get accustomed to. Okay, you're going to be gone for 2 days, and then you'll be home. So
Okay. What about now for you? Let's switch here and go to administration. What are the advantages for you from the administrative standpoint to having this schedule over a 24/48 or
the,
another
the
type?
the only advantage I really have is that it seems like morale is a little bit better. I wish we had a lower call volume and greater staffing that they could truly enjoy the 96 hours off in between. We rely on callbacks.
Okay.
Um, and in the event that we've got a fire, a call in for a fire, we call an off-duty shift in. Once we have a confirmed structure fire, we'll call both shifts in, so they do get called back on a regular basis. And sometimes it seems like I've been here 48 hours. I just need to decompress and get away for a while.
Hmm.
So it's been a little bit more difficult to bring them back on call-ins.
Okay. So I can see that. So you work a 48-hour shift, you go home, and then they get a fire 8 hours later, and you're like, I gotta go back in.
Right, right. So I mean that is one of the downsides to it. Communication is a little bit more difficult. I can go depending on if there's a holiday or anything else, because I work a straight 40-hour work week. I could go 10 days without seeing some of my captains, who are my ship supervisors. So that makes
It's a
it,
long time
yeah.
there.
And then you have to just keep in mind that when you schedule training, the hospital does our Cs and things like that, or you've got a new target hazard you want to tour. Before you could set up 3 days in a row. All three shifts are going to hit Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, now you kind of got to stagger it that day that, okay, we can be there, on day two of shift one on Monday, day one on a shift two on
So
Tuesday,
kind of
then Wednesday nobody's going to be there, and then Thursday, so you're staggered. It's not the end of the world, but I mean, it's just something to take into account. And, sometimes people don't understand. Well, can't I do 3 days in a row? No, we can't have somebody come in and do 3 days in a row training just based on how the schedule.
so the rest of the real world doesn't get the
Correct.
schedule and doesn't make sense to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so now let's shift gears a little bit to talking about overtime, sick time, vacation time. You guys have comp time here as well. How do you work that in with the 4896 to keep these guys sane here?
Okay, keep them saying. Well, we still have a Kelly rotation. In the last contract, they actually negotiated their work week down from under 53 to, I think it's 51.6. So they
Okay.
actually picked up an additional Kelly day a year.
Okay.
So they have your traditional Kellys that fall periodically. I think we're down to every 16th shift as a Kelly. Uh, we call the 48-hour section you're working a 48-hour tour. It's composed of two 24-hour shifts.
Okay.
Okay, you have the option of using a vacation day for 24 hours on either day, or two vacation days on both. We also allow vacation days to be split, so you can take a half a vacation day. So
Take a 12-hour
take a
shift
12-hour
vacation.
shot and then
Okay.
and work the remaining 30. Our comp time, you can put in for comp time if we're overstaffed. Uh, it's an automatic. You can take your comp time off, and that has to be a minimum 6-hour increment. So if your kid's got a ball game one of the evenings or a dance recital, hey, I'm going to put in comp from 1700 to 2300, something like that. You could be gone for 6 hours on that.
Okay.
Our trade policy is really liberal, as long as it's a light trade and it's accepted by the captain in charge. You can trade for that also.
Okay.
So I mean, as far as that goes, they've got ample days off. Even if you don't have any more vacation time, you should be able to have some comp time in your bank that you can use. And then, like most recently this year with Illinois, with your changes in sick time, that it can be used for doctor's appointments and family
medical
emergencies.
leave.
So for me, that's a whole new. I mean, our sick times broke up into 3 different categories now. That you called in and were actually sick. You had a doctor's appointment, or you had a family member that was sick. So I mean, I've got 3 columns of sick time trying to track right now. So that's a little bit of a complication more on administrative end. For the guys, though, it works out in their benefit incredibly.
Okay. All right, now getting in here just on their mental health, as far as their sleep deprivation and, like you said, call volume and stuff. How does that fit into? Is this a good thing for them? Is it is it a push for them, the same as the 24/48? Is it better? Is it worse? And then how would this work if you were a very busy company? Like if your ambulance was out there running, 15, 20 calls a day, would this be work, or would you have to split the 24s and one day in the ambulance, one day in the engine? How is this?
That's one of our major concerns and one of the things we've been working with, because like any other department, you catch your days with a limited number of runs, and then there's mornings I come in that, oh, we did 20 runs last night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean you have to take that into account, that if somebody did 20 calls the day before, are they going to be as sharp on day two as they were on day one? And the answer is obviously not. So it's one of the things we really are trying to focus on, and I'm kind of working together with the union. Initially, when we had the shifts put in, I had captains that were scheduling their shifts that we had the same two people on a medic unit for the whole month. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. You're only coming in 5 times, but you're doing 10 shifts and you're on the ambulance the whole time, and those guys were burned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then on the flip side of it is they didn't have to ride the ambulance for the next 2 months. We kind of came to the compromise that running people for 40 hours straight on the ambulance wasn't good. So because paramedics are a requirement here, we were able to at least rotate people. Day two, okay, let's rotate the engine crew with the medic crew to kind of give everybody a break. Unfortunately, there's days that both days they get hit,
Mm-hmm.
and they work hard. My bigger concerns are because we're a small department and we rely on callbacks and a lot of even 24-hour holdovers. Uh, there's times we're forcing somebody into day three, which is 72 hours. Now, personally, I think 72 hours, the mental fatigue is set in. Even if you haven't had too many calls, it's just too long for you to be here. And it's one of the things we're kind of struggling with as far as relationships with the union and administration here. That I would very much like to limit the number of hours you could work. And I'm not trying to pick anybody's pocket or anything else, but there's safety in mind, that how many hours consistently can you work before it's just time for you to go home. So we haven't come up with a number yet, and we've got a contract we'll be negotiating this coming spring. And one of the things I'm hoping to get is, let's get a fixed number of hours that you can't exceed. I understand you're working your regular 48. Uh, at 72, is that where we draw the line? Do we draw the line at 60 consecutive hours? So it's one of the things to look at. My other concern is that part of the reason they adopted this schedule was to allow our transfer service. And our transfer service is voluntary, but is handled by off-duty members on the 4 days they're off. And that's great, other than if you ran really hard on Monday and Tuesday, okay, you're supposed to have Wednesday off, and Thursday could be your transfer day. Well, there's days, maybe there's a second transfer, maybe somebody didn't sign up, and I've got certain guys that want to jump that transfer on. They work Monday, Tuesday, they want to jump a transfer on Wednesday, and I'm like, at some point, guys, you got to take a break.
You got to go home.
And so, like anything else, you've got your people that gobble up all the overtime, all the transfers they can, and those are the people I really watch, because I worry about them, that you worked your straight 48 here, and those 4 days you're home. Are you getting the rest you're supposed to, or are you running transfers 2 or 3 of those nights? And same thing is just what I'd like to do is I'd like to stop them the last 24 they work, or last 12 they work before they come. I don't like them running transfers in that, because all of a sudden we could have somebody running a trip from Ottawa to St. Francis, which round trip's about 5 hours, and then you're supposed to come in the morning. Well, fatigue-wise, I don't see that anything different than you going out and partying all night and coming in. You're still going to be tired in the morning. So it's one of the things we're trying to work through. And because we're a smaller department and we rely on our off-duty people so much, it complicates things a little bit more. I think if you had adequate staffing and you stayed underneath that, say, 8 calls a day, I think you'd be okay. I think when you start getting over 8 calls a day, now we're really kind of testing that fatigue factor, and it's one of the things that we're trying to watch, just so nobody gets hurt.
So just like anywhere else, more staffing, less calls, and
solves
all the problems, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, you gave me a lot of good points here, and I do definitely see the pros and cons to the schedule. I appreciate you taking the time to help me out here and explain to me and everybody else here how you guys do it, and I wish you luck, and this has been a great learning experience for me, so I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
very
No
much,
problem
sir.
at all.
All right.